SpaceX is about to pull off the largest heist in financial history, and they're doing it right in front of everyone with a straight face. The company preparing to go public at nearly $2 trillion has never turned a real profit from its core mission, burns through cash like a rocket engine, and just bought an AI startup that's losing $3 billion a year for fun. Yet Wall Street's biggest banks are literally fighting each other for the privilege of handling this deal. The paperwork is being filed, the lawyers are hired. The date is reportedly set for June 2026. What happens when the most valuable private company on Earth finally opens its doors to everyday investors? And more importantly, should you buy in or stay far away? Because the deal being negotiated right now involves something called fast-track listing, 10 times voting power for one man, and a secret AI company acquisition that's burning $3 billion a year. Here's what's really happening behind the closed doors of SpaceX headquarters. SpaceX has never been a normal company. It's been around for over 20 years, launched thousands of satellites, and made rocket landings look routine. But until now, owning a piece of it was impossible unless you were a billionaire or worked there. That's changing. According to multiple financial sources, SpaceX has hired Gibson Dunn, one of the most powerful law firms in the world, to represent them. Davis Polk is handling the banks. And those banks? Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Citi are all fighting for a spot at the table. Why is that important? Because when 5 of the biggest banks on the planet fight over a single client, it means one thing. This deal is enormous. The plan is to file confidentially with the SEC as early as March 2026. Confidential filing means the public doesn't see the financials right away. It gives SpaceX time to prepare while keeping competitors guessing. But the target is clear. June 2026. That's when the largest IPO in human history could hit the Nasdaq. But here's where it gets strange. Nasdaq is reportedly willing to break its own rules to get this listing. They're considering something called a fast entry rule change that would allow SpaceX to be quickly added to the Nasdaq 100 index right after it debuts. For a company this size, having that index inclusion from day one changes everything. It forces every index fund in America to buy shares immediately, creating demand that simply wouldn't exist for a normal IPO. Let's talk about the number that makes people's eyes glaze over, even though it's the most important thing in this entire story. $1.75 trillion. That's the valuation SpaceX is targeting. To understand how ridiculous that is, consider this. That's larger than the entire economy of Spain. Larger than every real estate company in the world combined. Larger than Visa, MasterCard, and Netflix put together. So where does this number come from? SpaceX isn't just one business. It's 3 businesses stacked inside a rocket-shaped trench coat. First, there's the launch business. Last year, SpaceX did 165 Falcon 9 missions. That's almost one launch every 2 days. They control about 80% of the global launch market. Competitors like Blue Origin and United Launch Alliance are fighting over the leftovers. Second, there's Starlink. This is the cash machine. 9.2 million subscribers last year, 10.6 billion in revenue. And get this, Starlink alone now operates about 2/3 of all active satellites in orbit. Not American satellites, all satellites, everywhere. Morningstar analysts looked at these numbers and said something interesting. They called the valuation expensive but not irrational, because Starlink is already profitable, already cash flow positive, already dominating a market that barely existed 5 years ago. But there's a third piece to this puzzle, and it's the piece that has Wall Street nervous. It's called Starship. And it might be the most expensive bet in corporate history. Every company has a moonshot, a project that might fail but could change everything if it works. SpaceX has something bigger. It has a Mars shot. Starship is the largest rocket ever built, taller than the Statue of Liberty, powerful enough to lift 100 tons to the Moon or Mars. And it's still in testing. Explosions have happened. Delays have piled up. But the engineering keeps moving forward. Here's what most people don't realize. Starship isn't just for show. It's the key to the entire valuation. Without Starship, SpaceX is a satellite internet company with a really cool delivery service. With Starship, SpaceX becomes the company that builds colonies in space, launches space stations, and maybe, just maybe, gets humans to Mars before the decade ends. But Starship costs money. A lot of money. Estimates suggest SpaceX is burning through billions to develop it. And that's before considering the latest twist in the story. The twist is called XAI, and it's turning a straightforward IPO into something much stranger. Remember when Elon Musk started an AI company called XAI? The one building a chatbot named Grok to compete with ChatGPT? That company is now part of SpaceX. In an all-stock deal, SpaceX absorbed XAI. On paper, it sounds exciting. Space-based artificial intelligence, satellites that think for themselves, data centers in orbit where cooling is free because space is cold. But the reality is messier. XAI is burning through cash, more than $3 billion a year, according to financial disclosures. That's $3 billion that Starlink earned now being funneled into AI research. Public market investors hate this. They want profits, they want dividends, they want steady growth, not experimental side projects. Here's the tension. SpaceX is asking investors to pay a near $2 trillion valuation for a company that's taking its most profitable division and using the cash to fund a money-losing AI venture and an experimental rocket program. It's brilliant if it works, it's catastrophic if it doesn't. And then there's the governance question, the one that makes institutional investors grind their teeth at night. When you buy stock in a normal company, you get a vote. Maybe not a loud vote, but a vote. When you buy stock in SpaceX, you'll get a vote too. It just won't count for much. Elon Musk is negotiating a dual-class share structure. For every share regular investors buy, Musk's shares will carry 10 times the voting power. That means he controls the company, period. No shareholder rebellion, no activist investors forcing changes, no boardroom drama that ends with the CEO getting fired. This isn't unusual for founder-led companies. Meta has it. Google had it for years. But SpaceX is different because Musk already runs multiple companies. Tesla. Ex-SpaceX has reportedly told early investors that Starlink alone could be worth more than the entire telecom industry within a decade. That's not just confidence, that's a warning shot aimed at every internet provider on Earth. Because while Comcast and Verizon are digging trenches and running cables, Starlink is launching satellites that beam internet down from space with zero infrastructure costs on the ground. The math is brutal for competitors. Every Falcon 9 launch puts up another batch of satellites at a cost so low that traditional companies literally cannot compete. They're not playing the same game. They're not even in the same stadium. And when the IPO drops, that's the story the banks will tell. Not a rocket company, an internet company that happens to own rockets. When SpaceX lists on Nasdaq, probably in June 2026, probably at a valuation that shocks the world, two things will happen immediately. First, there won't be enough shares to go around. The public float is expected to be tiny, maybe 3 or 4% of the company. That means prices will swing wildly, up one day, down the next. Day traders will love it. Long-term investors will need nerves of steel. Second, every quarterly report will become a national news event. Did Starlink add subscribers? Did Starship blow up? Did XAI release something that threatens Google? The drama will be constant. But underneath all that noise, one question will remain unanswered for years. Can they really do it? Can they really build a city on Mars? Or will the money run out before the rockets land? The answer won't come from Wall Street analysts or stock prices. If this video made you think differently about SpaceX, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to know what happens when the filing actually drops in March. And share this with someone who keeps asking if they should buy the stock. They're going to need all the context they can get. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.